Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. I am your host, Hope Pedraza, and today I'm starting a little series that's going to unfold over the next, who knows, however many weeks. And these all won't all be in order, and you won't necessarily have to listen to these in a specific order, but a series as in they will all be related, combining some of my favorite things. Maybe all of my favorite things, human design, mineral balancing, and really how to use this to help heal the body, create balance in the body. And we're starting today with a conversation about the root center and really, as the title says, unlocking the root center and understanding what the root center is. And I feel like this center and understanding the center within my own body was really the key for me of understanding the root cause, no pun intended, of my burnout and how that was happening, understanding my root center and my human design chart. So there's so much to talk about in terms of stress, mineral imbalances, and how this impacts your energy. And if you've ever felt this constant pressure, like you're under constant pressure, like no matter what you do, there's always this underlying sense of urgency that's kind of like playing in the background, just kind of pushing you forward. The need to constantly feel the need to have to get things done, feeling like maybe you can't really relax until you get things done. Or if you take a break, maybe feeling guilty for taking a break, or feeling like if you do quote unquote take a break, you're constantly thinking everything you should be doing, right? This is the feeling of the root center. This is the pressure. Root center is considered a pressure center because this is the pressure to get things done. And it's going to look a little different whether you have this defined or undefined in your chart, which I'll get to in just a second. But I know for me, this was this constant, and this is still like work in progress, I will say that, but it was this constant battle and this constant pressure of having to go and feeling like I had to be productive. I had to get all the things checked off my to-do list. I had to basically like earn my rest. And that's kind of, I have an undefined root center. This is kind of the shadow of the undefined root center. You have to earn your rest. You have to get all the things done before you can rest. And really, it just leads you to push yourself to exhaustion, which is exactly what I did, and can lead to really damaging your body and your adrenals, which we'll talk about. And the pressure will inevitably catch up with you. And so feeling this sense of urgency that's kind of draining your energy. It's also going to affect your digestion because there's certain channels or gates that are from the root center that connect to your digestive system. All of this is going to affect how your body's functioning. And so I think I really understood the root cause of my burnout. I mean, I know what the root cause is, but understanding how it's affecting my physical body when I dove into the root center and really understood how my body's stress response was connected to how my root center was operating and how it was operating within the energy of the root center. And so today I want to break down the link between your root center, your stress hormones, and minerals, and all of this that really helps fuel your body's ability to handle pressure. And that's really what the root center is about, it's this pressure center, but when we know how to use the energy of that center, we can use it to be able to handle pressure in a better way. So whether you have an undefined root center or a defined root center, your body's stress response plays a huge role in how much energy you have and how well you recover and where you get motivation from to get things done. So I want to go over some key mineral imbalances that show up with chronic stress, how this is affecting the root center and the physical body, and then ways that your body is kind of giving you the signals of imbalances, and then some steps you can take to restore balance. So let's talk about what the root center is first.
how this kind of relates to stress. So in human design, the root center, so if you look at your chart, if you don't know where your root center is, it's at the very bottom of your chart. So look at your chart, look at the very bottom. It's a little square that's going to be at the bottom. Your root center is at the base of your spine, at the base of your body. And your root center is responsible for your stress response, for pressure, for motivation, right? It's where your sense of motivation comes from. And it's directly connected to your adrenal glands. And as you know, if you've listened or watched this show for a while, we talk about the adrenals a lot. And your adrenals are responsible for hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, right? Your stress hormones. This is your body's built-in fight or flight system to know whether to fight or flee, right? So this is where your stress hormones are coming from. So there's so much dysregulation in the root center. Just that fact alone of me explaining that gives you a pretty good indication kind of what's going on here with this center. And there's so many women who are functioning with barely operating adrenal glands. Like I know mine were barely operating at one point. And this really, I feel like this is such a huge root cause. So if you have a defined root, right? So if you're looking at your chart, you find where the root center is, it's filled in, it's colored in. This means that you have this fixed relationship with stress or pressure, and it's more of an internal stress or pressure, right? And so basically, you can typically work well under pressure, but you may not always know or recognize when you're overloading yourself. So it's kind of this, yes, you can have this fixed relationship, but it's just being aware of when you're not overloading yourself with this sense of internal pressure. Now, if you have an undefined root center, it's more of an external pressure, right? You feel pressure from the world around you, people, your environment, whatever you're surrounded by, that's where the pressure is coming from. And that's where that can get really tricky because just like any undefined center in human design, right, it's very sensitive to conditioning from the outside world, right? So the energy moving through there is very fluid. It's not consistent. It's not fixed. So you might pick up other people's stressors and pressure, and then that's put on you. And then you feel the need to rush or get through, even when it's really not necessary. And I find that those with an undefined or open meaning you have no gates filled in. It's completely open. If you have an undefined center, a lot of times this is where, not saying people who don't have an undefined root center don't experience this, but you can especially become victim to comparisonitis, right? Comparing yourself to other people and kind of seeing where other people are on their journey and comparing yourself there. Again, it's that external pressure. And then you feel the need, like, I need to hurry up. I'm behind, right? So much of this can happen with an undefined root center. So we have to be really mindful of what we're taking in and allowing to influence that sense of pressure and motivation from that center. So there are a lot of studies that show that women tend to have a higher baseline cortisol level than men, meaning our stress response is naturally heightened. And this is why women are, among a lot of reasons, are more prone to burnout, adrenal fatigue, chronic fatigue, right? We have this higher baseline of cortisol than men. And also, our hormones run completely different. We've had this conversation before on the show, right? Men run on a 24-hour hormonal cycle, and women run on a 28-day hormonal cycle. They're constantly shifting. So all of these reasons, right? The higher base level cortisol, your natural hormonal cycle, all of this is going to affect how we're dealing with stress and why we are more prone to burnout, adrenal fatigue, all of these things, right? This is why it affects women so much more. And there's a lot of research that shows how chronic stress depletes minerals, right? This is all backed up by science. So I love to bring together the science and the spirituality part. So let's talk about minerals here because there are so many minerals that are really crucial for energy production that get depleted when we're completely dysregulated, when the nervous system is just dysregulated and we're in chronic stress. So when your root center is constantly activated, you're constantly feeling that pressure. Again, whether it's from external stress, internal stress, emotional pressure, or even just subconscious conditioning and conditioning from the outside world, it's going to impact your body's mineral balance. So let's look at the main minerals that are going to be impacted by this. First, magnesium. You might have known I was going to mention magnesium because I talk about it all the time. But magnesium, When magnesium is deficient, you're going to have increased anxiety and sleep issues. I have an episode coming up in the next month or so about magnesium, mental health, anxiety, all of those things. Magnesium is such a crucial mineral for so many different reactions in the body and different processes in the body, but it's known as this is your relaxation mineral, right? This really does affect how your body deals with stress. And because magnesium is used for so many different reactions in the body, it means we need a lot and it means we use a lot. So stress is going to naturally deplete it faster. Magnesium and sodium are going to be depleted really quickly in times of stress. And if you're chronic stress, then you better believe that you're probably deficient. So if you're feeling constantly wired, anxious, right? You're having trouble falling asleep, you have muscle tension, maybe you have like restless legs stuff going on. You could be low in magnesium. Magnesium is definitely something that you want to prioritize. Next ones I want to talk about is sodium and potassium. Sodium and potassium are both really important for your adrenals. Adrenal fatigue, energy crashes, and even mood, kind of like moodiness, can be affected by potassium. Potassium can affect your mood. Your adrenals use sodium and potassium to regulate your blood sugar, and it regulates your hydration levels, right? Sodium, potassium, all of your cells have sodium potassium pumps. It's pumping sodium and potassium in and out of your cells. So when stress is chronic, these minerals, just like the magnesium I just talked about, these minerals are going to get used up faster. So this is going to lead to things you might feel lightheaded, you might feel moody, you might have cravings for salty food, right, from the sodium deficiency. You might experience afternoon energy crashes. All of this is affected by sodium, potassium, and that balance in your cells in your body. Zinc is another one I want to talk about. I think we're pretty familiar with zinc in terms of how it affects immunity. So when we're depleted in zinc, this is going to affect your immune system and it's going to affect your hormonal balance. Zinc and copper, which I'll talk about copper in a second, have a very special relationship and it affects how our hormones are functioning, how they're being produced and used in the body. So zinc is really crucial for immune function, but it's also really helpful in digestion and hormone production. So when you're chronically stressed, it's going to lower your zinc levels. Now, it's not only going to make you prone to getting sick, but it's also going to affect how your hormones are functioning. So it could disrupt your menstrual cycle. It could disrupt how your estrogen is acting in your body, right? Zinc is directly correlated to your hormones. Okay. Important to note there. Now, copper, on the other hand, again, like I said, these two have a really special relationship. Copper is this mineral that I feel like I have a podcast episode. So you can go back and look at talk about copper dysregulation. And could this be you? But if you're feeling overstimulated, if you're feeling that sense of wired but tired, and I've mentioned this term before, and it's that feeling of like I can't turn my brain off and I can't calm my body down, but I'm so stinking tired that I need to sleep till next Wednesday. Like that's the wired but tired. And this is such a common symptom with adrenal fatigue. And when your adrenals are basically like they need rest. Maybe it's this feeling of wired but tired. And what typically why this happens is this copper imbalance, this copper dysregulation in the body. Your adrenals need to be working really well to be able to work through the excess copper, the copper in your body. So when your adrenals aren't functioning optimally, your body's typically going to hold on to more copper. So it's going to hold on to it in your tissues, which is why when I do a hair tissue and mineral analysis on my clients, there's a handful of markers I'm looking at, but so often there's copper dysregulation in the body because if your adrenals aren't working well, then your body's holding on to excess copper when it really needs to release it. It needs to use it and release it. And so when that happens, this excess copper stimulates your nervous system. So this wired but tired feeling is really typically due to this copper imbalance that's in the body. So it can make you feel anxious. It can make you feel irritable, emotionally reactive, and it can also affect your estrogen levels. Copper and zinc, these two minerals play a big part in that. So this is why so often stress feels harder to shake off for some women because it's affecting your estrogen levels. So now it's like this double whammy. You got things going on because your copper and your zinc are dysregulated, but now it's also affecting your estrogen, right? So it's just kind of a chain reaction of events that happens. So those are the main minerals that are going to be affected by your root center just being constantly stimulated. And these are the minerals that we really want to focus on prioritizing when we're looking at balancing things out. So what can you do when you're feeling the effects? Like some of these symptoms I'm mentioning, like I know what you're talking about. I'm feeling these, I'm feeling them right now. The key to support is, or the key here is to support your body before it reaches burnout. I feel like that's yeah, no, we know that, but sometimes we're not proactive about things, right? And sometimes we wait until it's quote unquote too late to do things, and it's just a longer and somewhat harder road to recovery. So if we can support your body before it gets to that point, like you're recognizing the symptoms, I'm recognizing that my body is like not really handling stress well at the moment, or if you just feel like I know I've been in this state of stress for a while, I don't necessarily feel like my physical body is telling me anything, but I know I've been stressed for a while, then let's be proactive about it, right? So, for supporting your adrenals with mineral rich foods, one of the easiest ways to replenish your minerals is through food. And then we'll use supplementation, right, to fill in the goals or fill, not the goals, the holes, fill in the holes. So, let's talk about food. Magnesium. Leafy greens, nuts, seeds, pumpkin seeds are a great source. Chocolate, like actual real chocolate. These are going to be the most nutrient dense sources of magnesium. That being said, we also know that conventional farming methods and the way our soil is in at least in this country, our soil is very depleted in magnesium, which is where typically we're getting the source or getting the magnesium from. So we also want to fill in the gap. So even if you are eating a lot of magnesium rich foods, I still recommend supplementing magnesium to fill in the gaps there because majority of us, studies are showing majority of us are deficient in magnesium, and your magnesium needs really are going to change and shift. So as you're in a period of stress, like a long period of stress, or you know what, maybe you're going into a stressful season in your business or in your career, then you probably want to amp up the magnesium. I do that with myself all the time. I know what times of the month I want to increase my magnesium supplementation. I know what times of the year I want to increase. So you can also play around with it and know that sometimes your need for magnesium is going to increase. So sodium and potassium are next because those are the next two that we talked about. The best source of potassium is going to come from coconut water, bananas, avocados. There's other foods, obviously, those aren't the only three, but those are going to be the most potassium rich sources. And for sodium, things like really good quality unrefined sea salt, bone broth, those are going to be really good, and which also can be a good source of other minerals. So those are going to be the best food sources for that. Zinc, things like pumpkin seeds, oysters. If you eat beef, especially grass-fed beef, that's going to be a really good source of zinc. Copper balancing foods. So this isn't necessarily, so we want foods to help us balance out copper. Vitamin C rich foods are really what you want for this. So things like citrus fruits and bell peppers, right? If you're supplementing, maybe you're doing the acerola fruit, right? So vitamin C rich foods, whole food vitamin C supplements. Like I said, there's acerola fruit. There's other whole food sources of vitamin C. We want to look for read the ingredients is my point there. Read the ingredients on your vitamin C supplements, and that can help with copper balancing food. So the other thing you can do, and I'll put this in the show notes. The adrenal cocktail, I love giving this recipe. Now you can buy a supplement. Maybe I'll put a link to both in the show notes. You can buy a powder form if that's easier. Because I know I like to have both on hand because sometimes you don't have all the ingredients and you have to make it, and sometimes it's just not convenient. So there is a supplement version of the adrenal cocktail, and you can have it in pill form, you can have it in powder form. So you can do, and there's other brands, but Jigsaw is the brand that I usually recommend. Or you can make it yourself, and it's typically orange juice, lemon juice, coconut water, some sea salt, cream of tartar. That gives you the potassium. And then if you want to add like sparkling water, like I like to, like in mine, gives you like a little fizz. But this is a really great recipe for all of these things that I just talked about. Really, it gives you so many minerals, and it really does help nourish your adrenals. So I recommend that if you want to just have it like put everything in one. I'd say it's most everything in one, but the adrenal cocktail is a great way to do that. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes for you. So let's shift gears here and talk about how we can also just help our nervous system to be able to handle stress better. So often we can become stuck in stress mode, right? We just kind of get stuck in the loop and we can't get off. And even when we're telling ourselves like there's no real apparent danger around us, right? Our body no longer feels safe to just exist. So, how can we retrain our nervous system to reset and be able to help provide that safety that we need? So, breath work is one, and I've been talking about this in the past few solo episodes, and I can't recommend it enough. And I said this in a few episodes ago, but I will do a whole episode on breath work and just my journey through breath work and how that's been and what I've been doing. But for our purposes today, I'll keep it simple. But breath work for regulating your nervous system and for just that root center nourishment, just nourishing your root center. Our root center is a source of safety. And so that's what we want to provide for the body to help clear up that energy, allow the energy to start moving from the root center. And here's the other thing I want to say. So when we talk about the chakra center or centers or your energy centers, whatever word resonates for you, if you listen to my series about the chakras, I talked about this and how the energy moves. But essentially, chakra is just the Sanskrit word for wheel, right? So these are just wheels of energy. So if energy center, you like that word better, whatever, use that word. But all of them work in tandem. So they all work together. So if there's energy that's stuck or stagnant in one center, it's going to affect all the ones above that, right? It works in this vertical line. And so our root center is at the base of all of it. So your energy starts there. So if we're lacking that safety and security that your root center desires for in order for the energy to move freely, literally every other part of your main chakra system is going to be slow, right? It's going to be dysregulated. It's just not going to have optimal energy flow. So we're lacking that free flow of life force energy through the body because it's stuck in that root center. So this is why another reason why I'm starting with the root center, because this is literally this is the core of it. This is the root of it. This is where it all starts. So for the breath work and all of these practices I'm going to talk about, but the practices, we want to do this too, just to provide that sense of safety and security so we can let the energy start to flow from the root center. So for breath work, there's a gajillion patterns of breath work you can do. The one I typically recommend to start with, just because it's easy and it doesn't matter if you're pregnant or have any other health issues, like anybody can do it, is box breathing, right? It's just inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, holding for 4. You're literally just breathing in a box, in a square. You might have heard it called square breathing, either way. But this signals your nervous system that you are safe, that your body is safe, and it does reduce cortisol levels. There's a lot of studies on breath work and how it impacts cortisol levels. The other thing you can do is inhaling for 4 or 5 counts and then exhaling for double. So making your exhale longer than your inhale. This is another really good way to signal to your nervous system that it's safe, lowers your cortisol levels. I feel good. So if you're inhaling for 4, you're exhaling for 8. If you're inhaling for 5, you're exhaling for 10, but making your exhale twice as long as your inhale. So another really good nervous system regulating breath pattern. Another practice you can do, which I talked about already, so you can go back a few episodes, is grounding. And I have a whole episode about grounding and what that is and how to do it and all my recommendations, all that. But just spending, as I said in that episode, even just 10 minutes grounding, whether it's bare feet on the ground, you have a grounding mat, whatever it is, this helps reset your nervous system and really helps neutralize those excess stress hormones that are hanging out in your body, right? So grounding is so easy. So just those 2 practices alone, moving your body would be another one, but being mindful of how you're moving your body. So if you're in more of like a freeze state where you're kind of in this collapse state, like I'm feeling stuck, I feel like I can't move, right? That's when we want to build the movement back up in the body. If you're feeling a sense of like fight or flight, like this, we want to slow it down. So slower movement is going to help. So we basically want to just kind of want to counteract what that energy is in your nervous system. So movement can help as well. But even just they're so simple, right? These few things, just breath work, grounding, moving your body in the right way. I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds so basic, but this is really it's all about how do we provide that sense of safety that the nervous system needs? That's what it is. And that's how we train our nervous system to handle stress better. We provide a source of safety that we can go back to, an anchor while we're working through that stressful situation, scenario, environment, whatever it is. So I want to finish here talking about how we're syncing your routine or how syncing your routine like to your natural rhythms, how this can help. Because I had an episode about this as well. You can go back and listen to that. So I'm kind of tying it all together with the bow here, the past few solo episodes, because really this all still goes back to supporting your root center. Because supporting your root center isn't just about what you eat and when you move, because the balance in your body isn't just about the what, but it's also about the when, right? It's when you rest, it's when you move, it's when you recover. And that's really going to help that root center. And since it is this pressure center, we want to get the right kind of energy flowing through there, right? So, for example, what does it look like to support your routine with your natural rhythms? For example, making sure you have a consistent bedtime, right? Your adrenals, here's the thing. Your adrenals recharge, repair themselves between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So if you're staying up too late, you're staying up super late, you're disrupting that window, that recovery window, it's 100% going to deplete your energy reserves, and it's holding your body back from repairing. Sleep is what repair is for. Your sleep is for repair, restoration. And in traditional Chinese medicine, each of the different glands in your body that produce hormones, and there's different organs in your body, are repaired at specific times of the night. And your adrenals, like I said, it's typically between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. We want to be asleep then. We want to be able to let our body repair what it needs to, restore what it needs to during that time. So sleep and having that consistent bedtime and consistent sleep time is really important. And then eating balanced meals at consistent times. Your body really does like consistency. And I said this in that episode about your natural rhythms. Your body does like consistency and routine. Now, yes, sometimes it's not going to happen, but if we can make it majority of the time that we're eating consistently at consistent times, this is going to help stabilize blood sugar. It's going to prevent adrenal crashes and blood sugar crashes. And your metabolism works best, it's at its peak in the middle of the day. So we want to make sure we're eating our biggest meal in the middle of the day and helping with that stable blood sugar and healthy insulin response. Here's another thing. And I know this isn't always the thing we want to talk about, but caffeine, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. And so caffeine, especially if you're doing caffeine, coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, caffeine is a stimulant. Like it is. There's no other way around it. Caffeine is a stimulant. And if you're constantly stimulating your body with caffeine, this is affecting your adrenals, because your adrenals are they're responsible for your stress response. So you're stimulating an adrenal response, their cortisol response. So if you're drinking coffee all the time for that, right? There's a problem with your adrenals there. But also B, if you're drinking caffeine on an empty stomach in the morning, it's this extra, your cortisol is already at its peak in the morning. So it's this extra like blah, to your adrenals in the morning with the cortisol response. So this is going to cause a stress hormone spike in the morning. So if you're going to drink your coffee, at least eat something first. I'm not saying never drink coffee ever again, but at least don't do it on an empty stomach, and be mindful of your caffeine intake throughout the day, that we're not relying on that for energy, because it is going to disrupt how your hormones are working and how your adrenals are working. And since your adrenals and your thyroid have such a close relationship, it's going to affect how your thyroid is functioning. So the studies really back this up in terms of like living according to your natural rhythms. And you've heard of the term circadian rhythm before. Women who regulate their circadian rhythm, right? This sleep-wake cycle and having this pattern throughout the day, right? Studies are showing that they have lower cortisol levels and experience less PMS, better digestion, better energy levels. So there is evidence to show that there's actual benefit to being able to get in touch with your body's natural rhythms and living according to those. So I hope all of this is making sense and how to support your root center. If you've been feeling exhausted, if you've been feeling that wired but tired feeling, right? If you're feeling stuck in stress mode, like you're constantly stuck in the loop of being stressed, feeling like your body isn't keeping up with life, right? Or with your lifestyle, your root center and balancing that with all of these things I've just talked about, the mineral balancing, the stress helping your stress response, this could be the missing piece. So start some of these practices this week, adding these mineral rich foods, supporting those specific minerals that I talked about, practicing your breath work or grounding, whatever practice feels good for you, but just working on building that safety within the body. That's all it wants. That's all your root center wants, really. That's all it wants to heal, is just building in that source of safety. I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. And you can even leave a comment or send me a message and let me know about your root center, defined versus undefined, how you feel that pressure from the root center, how you feel like it affects how you deal with pressure. And I have a lot more of these episodes in this series that's going to go on over the course of the next few months that will come out, just kind of dripping out, all tying in different centers and your human design and how we can support those. So stay tuned for more. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's at TheHopePedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.